All right, slowly but surely we're building up towards our afternoon here. Well, hello there. I've got a couple late minute people asking to join, so we'll wait. Good morning, Lisa. Nice to have you here. Good morning, Vince. Thanks. Still hoping that looking for a few more people. We'll give it a few minutes there. Well, thank you very much. Good morning, Lisa. Nice, or I should say good afternoon. Pleasure. Hello, Jules. I'm still waiting for the Colonel and for Ms. White. Hopefully I've given them the right links. They should join us here in a moment. So, well, thank you very much for taking time to join us here this morning on the weekly campaign forum. Okay, our hope is to continue to build our audience. We do record this session and it is available up on YouTube. If you search for weekly campaign forum, okay, you'll find it there. I think we're going to change and actually sneak the word Naperville in front of that, so it's a little bit easier. Right now it starts with the dates, so for what it's worth. I know that I have two other people asking to join, so I'm waiting for them to join us before we kick off. This morning, it looks like we're pretty much a candidate-filled sort of experience this morning, because I see Jim is here, okay, and Lisa are both candidates, and of course, my friend and longtime associate, Vince Ori. Good morning, Vince. How are you? All right. Good. That's great. I'm glad to see you. I hope I gave these guys the right link. I'm looking for them to join. Please send me Zoom link. I did. All right. So this is our fourth week. We're kind of working out the kinks here. The idea here is, since we are in a COVID bound sort of situation, it's a little difficult for us to get out and meet people. And so we want to get a chance to introduce some candidates to the people in Naperville. Hopefully some of them will show up, you know, and we have some other topics we want to talk about, particularly, Ennis is here this morning. He's going to give us a little bit of a more factual basis maybe for what's going on at the Islamic Center of Naperville. We'll get to that a little bit later this morning. Okay, there's the Colonel. Okay, that's a good sign. Good morning, Don. You're muted. All right. Good morning, Don. Top of the morning to you, or I guess early afternoon, technically speaking. So we're going to.
Good afternoon, Mark. Yeah, I know I'm muted. I'm on this all day long. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, you know, it's great. And like I said, we're trying to, you know, build our audience. Okay, we're in our fourth week, and our hope is not so much for weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4, but as we get later into the campaign, that, you know, we have more opportunities here in weeks 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so we still have 8 weeks left before the campaign starts in earnest in that. But I think we could start this morning. We do have a variety of new candidates here for us this morning. I'd like to start with, you know, Naperville City Council candidate, James Hazelhorst. Good morning, James. Welcome.
Good morning.
Nice to see you there. You know, I noticed that your profile picture is in uniform. What uniform is that exactly?
That's actually kind of an older picture of me in my Navy uniform. It's a chief petty officer's uniform. In that picture, when I retired, I was a senior chief, so I never did get the newer picture of me in my senior chief uniform. But yeah, it's my chief petty officer's uniform.
Well, we're really glad to see you in that, you know, service. You know, you and the Colonel served, both share that military background, along with, of course, you know, Councilman White, you know, or some of our those who've served for us in the city. Well, Jim, I know you've been very active on the community scene for quite some time. Okay, I mean, I crossed paths with you back when we were working together on the referendum to make sure we did opt in for dispensaries here. I believe you actually ran for mayor once in the past, and you know, could you tell us a little bit about, you know, what you're doing and why you've come here to the what you hope to get done at City Council. That's, I guess, my question.
Well, yeah, I did run for mayor back when Cherico ran the first time. There were 4 of us at that time, and that was an interesting experience. Basically, the reason I decided to go ahead and run for council this time is there is a lot happening in our community, a lot more happening in our community than has ever happened in the past. And I do believe that we all have a responsibility not just to take from our community, but to give back. And that's why I've always been very active in the volunteer community and at city council and so forth, is because I believe that that is one way I can give back. And I feel now that running for council is an appropriate way for me to start giving back to the community as well. So that's the reason I'm running. As you know, I've talked to council about a lot of issues on a lot of projects. The most recent one being the opt-in referendum. I guess basically, if you have any particular thing you want to talk to me about, I do know that that the thing you mentioned, the Islamic Center, the one argument that seems to come up at all of these whenever they propose a new development is traffic problems. And I always kind of laugh, kind of smile when I see that, because every project that comes before city council, their first complaint is, we're going to have traffic problems. And in all the 25 years I've been watching city council meetings, I've never seen that argument won. Council has a staff that does annual traffic surveys of every road in this city. They have trend data, they have massive databases. And when somebody gets up and says, I live next door to it, and trust me, there's going to be a traffic problem, they don't trust you. They've got their own database and their own people, and those people tell them that there's not going to be a traffic problem. You're just not going to win that argument. So I always kind of discredit that argument when I hear it, because it's really not based on fact the way the city does it when they do their traffic surveys and studies. So everything else, though, from what I've seen of that whole project is very well planned out, very well thought out, and I think it would be an excellent addition to our community and to our Muslim community. I think they deserve the kind of support that our Christian communities have gotten from this city for years. So I personally support it.
Well, that's great. We'll have a chance to go a little bit more detail at the end here. Normally our plan is pretty much simple. Allison gave me this plan a long time ago. And if you don't know Allison, Allison's joined us here. Good morning, Allison. Allison also a city council candidate. She said, hey, Mark, you need to have an agenda for these things. And she's right. So what we try to do is, little introduction of candidates, a little discussion there. And then, basically then we have any questions and answers, and then we go to our topic discussions at the end here. So we'll come back and visit with Anis a little bit later and get in some real detail, because there has been a lot of, I don't want to say necessarily misinformation, but let's just say confusion about what's really happening. And here we'll have someone who can set the record a little bit clearer on what's really going on. Next, I'd like to welcome the Colonel Don Potosny. It's been my pleasure to deal with Don over the last couple of months, and he's a high-powered guy. Good morning, Don.
Hey, how you doing, Mark? Thanks for the chance to chat with you today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. It's good to get a break from work for a little while and connect with some friends here.
Yeah, and look, hopefully we'll get some more people. We've been doing better on our recorded sessions. We're getting about 40, 50 people taking a look at it. So, Don, you decided to run for COD trustee, right?
Yeah, that's right. Like COD is such a big part of life here in the western suburbs. It's more than just the step towards university. And more than a fourth of the high school graduates in the district end up going to COD at some point. But it's more than just that. There's over 160 certifications available for career and technical education. And then it's such a cultural institution as well, with the art museum, with and of course the MAC, the Fine Performance Arts Center. So it's easy to make the argument that the College of DuPage is the most important institution in the western suburbs. And I'm thrilled to have a chance to be a part of it.
That's great. You know, I'm glad to hear it. Also, I'd like to introduce a new first-time visitor for us, Lisa Rose. Lisa, if you could tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're running for.
You have to excuse me, my husband's making lunch in the same room that I'm sitting in. So if we hear any extra noises. Yeah, my name is Lisa Rose. I'm running for Lisle Township trustee on the It Takes a Township slate. I decided to run because I think I could be a good advocate for the residents of Lisle Township. And one way I think I can do that would be by just educating people on what the township does and keeping them informed. And by keeping them informed, I believe not just a board meeting on the website and some documents, by making something digestible so that people can easily see what's going on, and to increase events so that people can participate and just get to know us better. That's pretty much it.
Well, that's good. You know, I'm glad to have you here today, you know, and like I said, let's hope that our recorded visits get a little bit more attendance. I am disappointed we haven't drawn a little bit bigger audience for such wonderful candidates but we'll keep banging at it and there'll be another opportunity for it. Vince, you know, I see you on camera, so I think you're going to say at least hello this morning, right? You know, instead of your auditing posture. Vince is also a candidate for Naperville City Council. Vince, a little bit about you and what you're running.
I'm running for city council, and today I am just listening. So I'm looking forward to everybody else's comments and trying to absorb a little information that will help me run for council and help me understand why other people are running for council. So
Absolutely.
That's where I am today. Thanks.
So that's great. I appreciate it. Very, very good. Good morning. Welcome, Ashraf. Hello there. How you doing? And next is Allison Longenbaugh, also a city council candidate, you know. Morning, Allison. Nice to see you again.
Good morning. Happy Friday, everyone. James, it's nice to meet you. I don't think we've ever met in person. I'm sure we've seen each other at city council meetings, but nice to see you here. Thanks for coming.
Nice to see you. Thanks.
Are we doing pitches or are we doing just?
You know, whatever you know, Allison, you know, there, like you said, James hasn't met you. We're both running for city council. You know, if you could just give us a little bit of the insight, you know, who you are and what you're doing. I mean, I know it's repetitive because you have been a stalwart member of our weekly campaign forum, and I do appreciate that tremendously. You know, oh, look at this. Councilman White is joining us, or maybe Kim. I'm not sure exactly. Good morning. This is great.
Cool. Well, I'm Allison Longenbaugh. Thanks for the intro. I am running for Naperville City Council. I've been a Naperville resident for 16 years, and really, I'm running to be the voice for neighbors who don't feel like having to sit through those long city council meetings. And I'm committed to bringing, you know, to building back up the community, to bring the focus back to local issues. So like snow removal and garbage pickup, the stuff that city council is really meant to be doing and not getting distracted by a lot of the other stuff that's going on. So number 7 on the ballot, lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7, that's it. You know, Benny's got the best. I got to, you know, sneak over quickly and say, good morning, Councilman and Ms. White. Always a pleasure to have you with us.
Hi, how's everyone doing? Benny White. I'm also running for re-election for the city council, and sorry, just jumping in here a little late. Had to run down to Joliet and pick up some literature stuff for the campaigns. I just walked in and get ready for classes and all that. But yeah, I want to continue moving Naperville forward, and we've been able to accomplish, you know, a few things this first term, and we want to continue to see some of those good things happening while at the same time doing some things to improve the community as well. So love talking, you know, diversity and inclusion and getting those things out there and ensuring that we're keeping our, you know, our community safe, and, you know, we're meeting the needs of individuals from a housing standpoint, and ensuring we're just being responsible and like Allison said, listening to residents and getting their opinions in there. So appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak there, Mark.
Well, I appreciate it.
Number 11.
Number 11.
Last one.
No, I'm number 10. I'm right. I'm counting on your coattail. Okay. I mean, you know,
all right.
You know that. You know, hoping that, you know, that the powerful white pull through that I've heard so much about. So that for what it is, I do have a question for you, Benny. I would like to see if we can get a spokesperson to come in from, what is it called? The Neighborhood United, Naperville?
Oh, Naperville Neighbors United.
Yeah, I would like to, today we're very fortunate we have, Anis is here with the Islamic Center of Naperville. He's going to share a little bit of information because if you might have seen, there's been a tremendous outpouring associated with this. I mean, at the last planning and zoning meeting, there were over 2,000 comments, just yes, no comments, 700 plus written comments, and over 170 speakers signed up. Now that's even crazier than anything I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That makes Kraler Mansion and you know, Nichols Library all look nothing, okay? So that shows there's a tremendous, and I really feel that this issue, in my heart, the Islamic Center and the diversity issues may be linked somewhat, that we need to broaden it out there. And, you know, if there's someone within that organization, or if you would like to do that, I'd like to have as a topic for one of our discussions, specifically what we're doing in those areas right there, because it's so important for us as a city.
Absolutely. I think Siley Joshi would be an excellent person to address that. She's part of Naperville Neighbors United. And super connected in the community. And this lady right here, she's pretty sharp as well.
You mean Mayor White right there?
There you go. There you go.
Never.
You remind me, and this is the highest compliment I can give. You remind me so much of my mother. Okay. My mother was.
It is a great compliment. Moms are the best.
Well, not only is mom's the best, but my mother was super involved in the community. And anytime we moved a lot, and I'm sure in your military career, you moved a lot and you had to do this thing. And she would reach out and she would be connected. And everywhere I look, I see Kim White. So I know that you are a powerhouse there. You know, the Whites, I look at this as a team without a doubt, and it's a good one. So yes. You know, I am going to lean on, we need to grab some more community involvement into it, because the next part of this conversation typically is big questions. But today, all I've got is candidates pretty much.
Well, you have Ashfaq Syed down on the call, and he's another, he gets, he's very involved in this as well. So he's another great one to talk to. And I see Colonel Don out there. He gets him having to do all the moves like you talked about. And and I appreciate seeing everyone here. Hi, Allison, how you doing? And Vince, and I see some folks in there all trying to do what we can to make this place. Yeah, there's Jim. I see Jim House of Horse. There you go. All right.
Oh, yeah.
I saw Vince and
Lisa and Julie.
Lisa, okay. Yeah. All right. Well, great.
Julie's my campaign manager. She's hiding for the moment, but that's
all right.
She sneaks in the back. And actually, are you what am I saying? You're Ian's campaign manager, aren't you? Ashak? No.
No, I'm sorry.
Aren't you Ian's campaign manager? I see you involved with a lot of his campaign.
I am helping Ian also. Yeah. With Benny and Ian, I'm helping both these people, friends. They're very good friends. So I'm just helping both of them. So I'm part of their team.
Yeah, well, Ian's a really good thing right here. Normally, like I said, we would open this up to general conversation and any questions we have, but we have very few actually citizens here today. So I guess if we have any questions among ourselves, if there's anything we like to talk about. Oh, yes, Kim, please.
I can ask some questions because I'm not running. I can ask questions of all of you. So
do it. You'd be so deeply indebted to you for that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So let's start with you, Don, because you're here on my screen first.
And you've interviewed me before.
And I have, but College of DuPage, I think that's obviously an excellent choice. I mean, I think there's some other offices, if you will, that I would love to see you consider at some point.
Sure.
But glad to see that you came here and you got connected, and I know you're from the Chicago area. But tell me a little bit about College of DuPage and why that's important for you.
Well, more than anything else, I'm an absolute fanatic about public education. I'm working on my doctorate with Northern right now, reading some John Dewey and some other theorists, and it is really the foundation of democracy. Public education is the thing that gives equal opportunity to all of the folks in our country. And the College of DuPage is the flagship public institution in the western suburbs. It's such an amazing place. And before you came on, Kim, I was raving already all the other things that COD does for the community, and the link to employers and the support to entrepreneurs, the over 160 different certifications that help folks to prepare for meaningful work. Really just an incredible institution. So I'm glad to have even a chance to become involved with that.
That's great. And I agree. It is definitely the key to democracy, and just making sure there's, it's equitable, right? That everyone can participate. And I know that you're doing some teaching in Chicago, I think on the west side of Chicago.
Yeah, Benny and I have the same job. Benny does it in Joliet, and I lead the JRTC program at Farragut High School in Little Village on the southwest side, an area in the city that was really hard hit by COVID, and those families were already dealing with so many issues between poverty, unemployment, systemic racism, violence, and it's really a great privilege to be able to commute from Naperville down there and help those kids overcome those obstacles and prepare them for post-secondary success. So being able to contribute to College of DuPage at the same time will be quite a privilege.
Great, thank you.
And you and I know what it's like to be moving so much in the Army. So we're just thrilled to finally settle down here in downtown Naperville in this amazing area. Our son just turned 10 and he's living in his 9th house. We finally got him his puppy that he's always wanted, and you know what that's like to finally settle in roots. The Army messed up by sending Lieutenant Colonel White to Wheaton College. Once you guys saw what life was like here in the western suburbs in DuPage County, you guys just couldn't leave, I guess.
We couldn't leave. Very similar to our hometown, Kansas City, but just 500 miles away, but similar in a lot of ways. But it was easy to make the decision to stay here.
We're really happy you guys are here.
A better football team these days.
Uh-oh. My bet's on Kansas City anyhow, just so you know.
Let me wear my hat.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I just hope you appreciate the Bears and their scouting department that we passed on Mahomes and let him go to Kansas City.
That was the best decision they made.
Yeah. Speaking of birthdays, I think don't we have another birthday we're celebrating, Allison? I think I saw something online that there's a 17-year-old or so celebrating a birthday today or soon, huh?
I do. My daughter Anna just turned 17 today. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yay.
We got a lot of teenagers in the house. So.
Right. And they're back to school.
Huh?
They're back in school now.
2 of them went back to school. They're hybrid, and then one of the twins, she did not want to go back at all. She from the start wanted to stay remote. So she is super happy with staying remote and is not regretting it at all, even though the other 2 are back and are like, yeah, it was pretty fun and cool. But she's like, no, I'm good. It's much easier to get up and log in from my bed than having to be in the classroom.
Right.
Yeah. So, thanks, Mark.
Oh, I just definitely should celebrate the important things. I mean, at 17, I mean, that's definitely an age that brings, palpitations to, when you have a 17-year-old daughter. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Excitement lies ahead.
Got a little too much. I'm kind of glad they've been remote the whole time. So
yeah, it's probably been easier, I would say.
I don't know. I've seen pictures of your family and they're all very attractive. So I'm sure
I'm glad they're home. They might not be glad, but I'm glad they've been home.
Yeah, I'm home.
I'm sure life will pick up here in a moment. So any other questions we have?
I do. I mean, I can go to Mr. Hasselhorst next. I've only seen him, he's obviously very involved with the city council in terms of asking questions and being connected in that way. So I'd love to just hear a little bit more from you. I love watching you and reading things that you write about, and just love to hear a little bit more about you and your platform.
Okay, well, as I explained,
And I'm sorry I missed all this. So maybe I can go back and watch it because I missed it because we were on another.
No, that's fine. I don't mind repeating. As I explained, and coming from a person that your husband served in the military and your commitment to the military, I'm sure you're familiar with some of the military attitude about giving back and kind of a sense of duty to not just take. And that's a big part of why it's evolved the way I've been. Ever since I moved to Naperville with the various volunteer organizations like the JCs, the Change Club, and so forth, as well as the engagement in city council. And that's really a big part of why I decided to run for city council, was because there's a lot happening right now. I think we all agree the pandemic has created a lot of issues for our community that we haven't had to deal with. And of course, it brought a lot of tension to the surface that I think a lot of people in our community probably just weren't aware of. And so it's really been an eye-opening the last year. And I think that we need to address a lot of those issues. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to rely on some of our higher government organizations, higher government, state and federal, to provide us some of the assistance we need, because they've been so busy divisively fighting each other that we can't rely on their help. But I would like to see us be able to maybe institute some programs, some funding, some sort of an emergency program. So if something like this happens again, we can at least give ourselves a little help, a little support, so that we don't have to rely so heavily on state and federal aid. It's really been tough for a lot of people on different levels because of the financial hardship that this created. So that's one thing that's important to me. Let's see, of course, redevelopment of land in our community is going to become a big issue. I know that a lot of people are resistant to the idea of higher density use, but the reality is that when you're built out the way Naperville is, and you're a mature community the way Naperville is, you're going to have to accept redevelopment for higher density use in some areas of your community. It's just going to have to happen. And you're going to have to do that in a very responsible way. I think past city council have done a very good job of doing the initial developments and where they're located and so forth in a very responsible way. But we're at that next level where we need to do the redevelopment in that same way. And a lot of people are resistant to seeing higher density use in their community. And if we're going to grow and we're going to continue to prosper and continue to be a thriving community, redevelopment is going to happen. It's something that we got to do. And that's primarily a lot of my major concerns. I couldn't help it. I didn't know that you guys had lived from Kansas City. I actually lived out there for 10 years.
Oh, really?
When I was working at the Department of Agriculture, I'd gone out there to go to college, to grad school at the University of Missouri, Kansas City campus.
Oh, okay.
So,
UMKC downtown by the plaza.
Yes, I actually lived in an apartment down there for quite a few years before moving up north to Gladstone. That's where they moved the office. I worked for the Department of Agriculture, and they moved their office up by the airport. So I was out there for 10 years before moving out here, and it's a nice community. There's a lot of good things going on out there. It's a big city.
Yeah, it has definitely grown over the years. So yeah.
Yes.
I have a follow-up question here for you, Jim. Have you followed at all the relative to the density and development question, the plan that Councilman Kelly and Councilwoman Sullivan have worked with Assistant Director Ted Allison Laff with for what they're presenting in terms of focusing that higher density not into the existing residential neighborhoods, but into 10 different areas that have been defined? Are you familiar with that, or have any opinion on that?
Well, I know they had I saw the stuff on the future land use that they were talking about in city council, and the different ways to change some of the way they handle future land use to make it a little easier to do some of the higher density developments. I'm not sure I'm familiar with what you're talking about here. I don't think I've heard anything about regions and certain areas where they look at higher density development. I'm kind of curious. I'd be curious to see that, because a lot of the redevelopment that I think you're going to see happening in Naperville in the next few years is going to be redevelopment of residential areas, and you're going to have to find a way to do that that fits with the residential community that's there right now. For example, I have a little difficulty accepting the higher density development use that's occurring at what they now are calling Heritage Place, where the Prowler Mansion is. I think that that's a little too high density for that area. I agree it could have been a higher density in the original proposal for duplexes, which I think was going to put like 27 units in there, would have been appropriate for that area of town. But what they've put in there now is just way too much. Now, where I'm at right now at our office downtown, we're sandwiched between the two new townhouse developments that were put in down here, with the one across from Naper Settlement and the other one across from the Walgreens. In this part of town, that kind of density fits, and that kind of residential redevelopment fits. So I'd be interested in seeing these zonings you're talking about to keep it away from residential, because I'm not sure how you can do that when you're talking about residential redevelopment. I'm just not familiar enough with it to really comment on it.
You know, I think it's early days, and I think that what hopefully we'll try to do, maybe we can get one of the, either Councilman Kelly or Councilwoman Sullivan to come on and spend a little time with us in one of our future sessions. They had identified like 10 different areas. By the way, yes, I also agree. You might be aware, I spent quite a bit of effort trying unsuccessfully to fight Heritage Place, okay? For the reason, I live, you know, at 11 North Brainerd, okay, just a couple blocks away, and Vince is also close to that. We never felt that that was an appropriate development, and it really exposed to us some of the fundamental problems. One of the reasons, actually one of the reasons for my campaign is the fact that I just don't think that we've created an effective way to get community input into our city council, okay? Usually by the time we get to city council, many of these things are done, okay? That already the communication has been done, it's been worked out. We are very fortunate, or unfortunate in Naperville, however you look at it. We have very, very good property attorneys in this state and in our town, and they do an excellent job of getting for their clients what they want. However, I don't think we get the balance quite from the community. I think we need to work on that. That's something that I believe very strongly in. Okay, I particularly did not like what happened in 4th Avenue here recently. If you saw what they did there, where they took 4 lots and put up, what, 13 high density buildings. Okay, if you look at that from, you know, Marilyn's not with us today, but Marilyn Schweitzer's done a tremendous job of putting out maps that show how it is. If you see how that affected the density in that area, it's amazing, and it's amazing in an unfortunate manner, okay? I mean, can you imagine being a person who has a house now and used to have 4 neighbors with green space, and all of a sudden now there's 13 units and they're just basically side to side? It's unfortunate, you know? Vince, I'm surprised you're still monitoring on that one. I thought that this would be your.
Oh, I've got my opinions on it.
I thought this would be your sweet spot. But in honesty, though, I really do need to probably cut it over. Unless there's any other questions, we probably need to cut it over to Anasir, so you can talk to us a little bit about it, Islamic Center of Naperville. One of the things that happened, I spent all 4 hours on that planning and zoning call last week. Okay, and it was amazing in terms of how much input has come out and how much of the time was done. The gentleman who was the attorney did a really good job outlining some of that. And then, it's without any further introduction, if you'd explain who you are and if you'd help us determine what's real and what's not real.
Sure. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me on the forum. I appreciate it. So my name is Anis Rahman. I'm a Naperville resident for over 20 years and a member of the Islamic Center of Naperville for over 20 years. I'm actually the chairman of the Engineering and Construction Committee at the Islamic Center of Naperville, and I'm also a past board member. So we've done a lot of work on this project for over the last 10, 15 years, looking for the property, looking for the right property. When we found this property, we were very, very happy about it because it was properly zoned. We didn't have to worry about rezoning anything. And it was just a matter of preparing some master plans, getting it through the conditional use and getting it through permitting, and then moving forward to construction. We've had a lot of good dialogue with our neighbors. Actually, we reached out to Tallgrass subdivision, the HOA, prior to COVID even starting, and we actually met with them at the clubhouse, and we presented to them our master plan. It was a very good meeting, a lot of good technical discussions back and forth. Then we had a follow-up meeting with them, virtual meeting, just because of COVID situation, and then a bunch of emails back and forth, questions and answered, a lot of good, technical stuff. Did the same thing with Ashwood Point. We reached out to them, had a virtual meeting with them, and we've also reached out to Pencross Knoll. We haven't had a chance. They were going to set up something in January. Hasn't happened yet, but we're hoping to do that in the near future. But I really enjoyed the technical discussions, quite honestly. But unfortunately, there's been some things that have been, advertised out there that just aren't right, that aren't correct. And I think the main topics that come up in most of our discussions is parking, traffic, drainage, and how tall is your building, right? So, when it comes to parking, we have the luxury of, we were looking for about 10 acres of land. We actually got just over 13 acres. We don't have the luxury of parking on any of the streets, like many churches and mosques that are built in subdivisions. A lot of times they don't have enough parking of their own, so they have to park on the streets. We don't have that luxury, and we have no intention of parking on the streets, but we have the luxury of a lot of acreage. So we have provided in phase 1 all the way through phase 5 of our project, more parking than that's required by the parking study that was done by a professional engineering firm and required by the city of Naperville. So we've got, we feel pretty good about the parking issue. Traffic, somebody mentioned earlier, always comes up. There was a company a firm by the name of KLOA, traffic engineering firm, that we hired. They did a traffic study. And we originally had one entrance coming into our facility. That's what the city was looking at. That's what the consultant was looking at. Everything was fine and dandy. But then the city came back and said to us, you know what? In order to try to avoid any type of traffic issues, why don't we add a left turn lane at your cost? And we were like, oh, geez, that's a great idea. And then we'll add another entrance to your facility so the one entrance doesn't get impacted too much at your cost. And we said, well, another great idea. So it turned out to be about $250,000 at our cost, but we agreed to putting them in, even though it wasn't required by the study or the city. But we thought it would be, good neighbors. We thought it would be a good thing to install. Now, we all know that 248 is going to be expanded. They're looking at 2023, 2024. Unfortunately, the $250,000 we're spending now for the left turn lane and widening 248 is going to be torn up and completely redone. So that's money that's thrown out, but for the next few years, it'll help our situation. So ICN, supported that, even though it was at our cost. So I think we've addressed the situation with the traffic pretty well. It is a minor arterial, and it's something that the city of Naperville has been wanting to expand for a long time. They're not expanding it because ICN is coming. They don't see impacts of ICN. Most of our traffic is not during rush hour or prime traffic patterns, where in the afternoons or late evenings is our major traffic. So that was also good. The other thing that came up was drainage. Is your facility gonna, are we gonna have water in our basements because the situation is our drainage design is only going to help our neighbors. We have our own stormwater detention facility. We're going to retain that water over there and slowly release it into the storm sewer. So the studies that's been done by the civil engineers and the city concurs that this will only help the neighbors with any flooding issues that they currently have that are caused by our property. It will only lessen that situation. So we've been able to address that. I think the final one is building height. There's a lot of numbers on building height. I saw an email the other day from somebody said our building heights varied from 150 to 185 feet, 20 stories tall. The fact is building is 29 feet tall to the roof line, not 150 to 185. 9 feet tall. There are sections of the building, parapets, a dome, and a minaret that go above that height, but those are all allowed by the city of Naperville, the way the zoning is. Church steeples, domes, parapets, these types of things are not even included in the height variances.
Can I ask you a quick question about that?
Absolutely.
The dome and the minaret, they're not even coming until like 2030 or 2040, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And the first phase, the height you'll see of the roof is 29 feet. The dome, the big dome is actually 30, 40 years out. It's in the final phase, 40 years out. And the minaret is in the third phase, that's 20 years out. So yeah, absolutely. The first 10 years is just the first phase. So just to explain real quick, the 5 phases, the first phase is the mosque. Second phase is the school building. And it's quite interesting, the school building was originally designed to be 3 stories. We were going to request a variance. But we found out that, hey, listen, people aren't going to like it. City's not going to like it. Don't want a variance. ICN said, okay, no variance. We'll drop the building to the height that is allowed by the city of Naperville zoning requirements. So we actually dropped the height of the school building. So we went a basement and 2 stories. So all of our heights now equal whatever's required for our neighborhood residential homes even. The allowed height is 35 feet. We're going 29 feet. We're actually going to be lower. So the arguments about us being much higher, 20 feet, 20 stories high and stuff, it's just not accurate. So we're having all this communications with our neighbors online and in person and all that kind of stuff. And we're hoping that going through this conditional use process that we're going through now, as you mentioned, Mark, we had a meeting on the 3rd, or we're having one coming up on the 3rd, which will probably be, the second meeting, which will probably be pretty long because I hear there's a couple other contentious projects on that agenda also. And I'm hearing that there may be another one on the 10th to continue for ICN.
Given the amount of people that are involved in this, in terms of the numbers, they're staggering. I mean, 170 plus speakers.
Yeah, and I and all of ICN, I know we welcome any questions anybody has. Going through the technical stuff was a pleasure going through it. I live in Ashbury nearby, but my house doesn't back up to the new ICN property. So I have no problems with people asking questions and wanting to know. My only issue is the disinformation that's being spread out there. I wish there was some way to avoid that. But we're here, we're engaged, we're very open book. ICN's very open book on everything. So any questions that anybody has, I'm here to answer.
I think for me, this is the important issue because one of the things that came out were exactly the issues you're talking about. It's like all these really tall buildings, we're gonna have all this light and that. I mean, from the plan I saw, isn't there a gigantic like retention pond that actually backs up? I mean, it's a couple 100 feet, right?
It's 200 feet from the, between the retention pond and our land bank parking and things like that. We're 200 feet from the eastern properties next to ICN. And then on the south side, we meet all the requirements also for being away from the property line. Our lighting, for example, somebody mentioned in one of the HOA meetings, they mentioned, oh, you're going to have this lighting in this parking lot. And I said, well, the clubhouse that you have that we're in today has flood lighting for the tennis courts. The flood lighting is much, much worse than any parking lot lighting will be in any project. So we have 0 foot candles at our property line. It doesn't carry on beyond our property line. It's not allowed to carry on per code. So that's what it's designed. And as far as glare, we have cutoff fixtures that point down. We don't have the traffic or the tennis courts with floodlights that do cause problems that you have in your clubhouse. So even lighting wasn't an issue.
Yeah, I think it's going to go on for a while because of the amount of people. I wouldn't be surprised for it is. I expect that we'll be talking about this again next week just to see what does come out of planning and zoning. Yeah. I don't think you get through planning and zoning next week just because of the amount of people that are involved.
I agree. I think we'll need that 3rd meeting maybe on the 10th.
I just want to say, I think that's the greatest thing of all. And this is really what we're trying to do here, is to drag people in, to be involved in the community, to be informed and get out the vote, you know, for what it is. We are coming up, Allison, thank you again for putting all the things in chat. I really appreciate that. She reminds us that that early voting starts in February 25th, right? That was very good. And unless there are any other questions today, I would like to thank everybody. Yeah, Vince, go ahead.
I just have one question, and it has about, people have discussed it here, and we have gone through a process of rezoning by variances. And I'd like to know what some of the other people that are running for office think about that. Why can't we do the long-term zoning before they come in, the developer comes in and asks for variances? That is, you know, the main reason I am running, because we have not had any input as citizens until after it's already been rezoned through the zoning and planning commission. So anyway, it's been a good conversation today, and it'll be an ongoing conversation. And we all want development. Nobody's against that, but I think we should do a little bit more long-term planning rather than just approving everything by the city council that comes over from the planning and zoning commission. So anyway, next week, that would be a good topic to be discussed.
Would you like me to address that as far as the ICN project is concerned?
Please.
Okay, so we're looking for 2 variances. We're not looking for any zoning variances. The zoning is going to stay R1. As far as the conditional use is concerned, we're looking for 2 variances. They're very simple, and both of them are supported by the city staff, engineering staff. One is on the north side of our property, which is along the ComEd easement. And the only thing we're asking for is on 3 sides, north, east, and south. We're putting landscaping in on all 3 sides. The north side, we're asking no fence. We are putting it where the residential areas are on the east and south. But on the north side, where it's just a ComEd easement in the trail, we're encouraging people to walk, come to our facility, walk to our facility, and it's not going to impact any residential areas. And once again, we just proposed that to the city staff, and they agreed with it. It's definitely not a deal breaker for us. If they said, oh no, we want a fence there, not a big deal, but we just thought it would be a betterment for the community and for ICN. So that was one. The second one is the setback of our property line along 248 on the west side. In order to get additional parking, we cut back, I think, 10 feet into that setback. And once again, we proposed that to the city staff. We laid out of our master plan on the parking, and we said, this is what the benefits of that setback by 10 feet would be. And the city staff said, absolutely, that's a great idea. It would give you guys additional parking and all that kind of stuff. We definitely support it. Once again, from ICN side, we can redesign that, not a deal breaker for us, but everybody thought it was a win-win situation, both of those variances. So those are the only 2 we're requesting. We're not requesting any height variances, any zoning variances, nothing like that.
That's great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, just real quick on that. Naperville does have the future land use that it does, which is actually a map of all of the future planned zoning, current zoning, as well as possible zoning changes allowed if a person wishes to petition the city council to change the zoning on their current property. You can't just go into city council and say, my property's R2, I want to make it industrial. It has to already be pre-approved under the future land use study to be allowed to be changed. Like the property I'm at right now, it's zoned R2, and it is permitted to be changed the zoning to commercial. We're right along Aurora Avenue, right across from, city, over here by City Hall and everything. There's commercial property on the other side of the street. So that was planned. If somebody comes up with a project that is a permitted use or a conforming use that falls completely within the city's zoning plans for like an R1 property or an R2 property, they're going to conform to the height, they're going to conform to the setbacks, they're not asking for any variance, any conditional use. Those things go straight through city staff, you never see them, you never hear about them. The only ones you're going to hear about are the ones that are non-conforming use that require a variance or a conditional use authorization. PDUs are an exception, of course, because they are actually creating a development. But that's the reason why you only see in city council all of these people coming in with these projects that they're asking for variances and they're asking for conditional use. Because if they don't need that, they're never going to make it to planning and zoning. They're never going to make it to city council. You're never going to see them. So it gives the appearance that everybody comes into Naperville and they build by conditional use, or they build by variance, or and things like that. That's really not what's happening. It's just gives the wrong impression. And as far as like he was pointing out with the Islamic Center, when you have residential, the residential zoning definition says in there what are permitted conditional uses. You can't go in there and just put anything in and ask a request for conditional use for just anything. It has to be listed under that zoning as a permitted conditional use. And in this case, churches and religious institutions are permitted as a conditional use in the residential zoning. So it's within the guidelines. So it's not like this is happening all happenstance and everything's going through the city council. There is a plan, there is restrictions, there are rules. It's very well laid out. If you bother to go and read the zoning requirements, the zoning definitions, the future land use maps and so forth, it is very well planned out and very well thought out. But unfortunately, what people see when they watch the planning and zoning and city council meetings is they get the impression that people are just doing whatever they want. They're going in there and getting the city council to just permit anything because there is no plan, there is no limits, there are no restrictions. And that's simply not true.
I've got to get off because I have to start a class. I'm a teacher. But the one other thing that, and Jim, I think you laid it out very well. But what a lot of the public doesn't see is that a lot of people or developers, whoever, that have these ideas of things that they want to do, they come in, it doesn't just go right to PZC. It has to go through several gates with staff input, sending them back. They come back to staff, sending them back, they come back to staff, or at some point the staff is saying, no, this is not a good idea. We're not even going to let it go to PZC. So there's a lot of projects that actually do not get approved that you never hear about at all. By the time it gets to PZC and especially to council, a lot of those gates have gone through those gates, and you know, and so at that point there's a strong chance that it can be approved. Not all of them do get approved, but most of them I would say, yeah, they do get approved, but there's a whole lot that you don't see that never even get to us because they've been shut down earlier in the process.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. We had multiple meetings, intake meetings, what they call them at the city, before we even got to planning and zoning, and you know, all the different departments come in there. The fire marshal comes in there and they ask us to make certain changes and look at this, look at that. So we massaged our site plan multiple times. And once they were like, okay, now we don't see anything, we don't have anything against what you're doing, then you start building the plans to get to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And it's funny, we talk about the zoning, this R1 and religious has been approved because prior to ICN buying purchasing the property, it was owned by Hope Church. So it's been approved in a residential area for a church for over 20, 30 years. And it's funny, in one of the homeowners meetings, one of the residents said, why don't you guys look at this property on 59 over there? And I was like, because that's not zoned correctly. this is. So.
That's been great. Well, we've had a really good session, and I promise Allison we never go over an hour. Okay, and you know, we're at 53 minutes. So if there's any last comments, if not, I'd like to thank everybody for taking time today to join us. I look forward to, you know, getting the recorded version up there. Keep looking to try to bring more citizens in, you know, but I do appreciate everyone's time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.